Right now, like at this very millisecond, there's an automated script out there that's probably trying to brute force its way into a secure server. A server holding your personal data.
Oh, absolutely. It's happening constantly.
Right, constantly. And the crazy thing is, if a cybersecurity defender tries to use a standard commercial AI to analyze that malicious script to figure out how to stop it, there is a very good chance that the AI will just flat out refuse.
Yeah, it'll just throw up an error message.
Exactly. It essentially tells the defender analyzing hacking tools violates its safety guidelines.
Which is, I mean, it's a terrifying bottleneck when you realize the people attacking those servers, the bad guys, they do not play by any safety guidelines.
No, of course not.
Right. Threat actors are currently dedicating just vast computing resources to train their own custom closed-source AI models. They're automating attacks, discovering vulnerabilities at lightning speed, and basically weaponizing artificial intelligence at a scale that is entirely invisible to the average person.
And that invisible war is exactly our mission for today's deep dive. We are exploring a really fascinating technical report and a recent Hugging Face release for a brand new open source AI model.
An open source model designed specifically to arm the defenders.
Yes, to level that playing field. It's officially called Llama 3.1 Foundation AI Security LLM Base 8B.
Which is quite a mouthful.
Yeah, it really is.
So for everyone's sanity, we'll just be using the researcher's shorthand, which is Foundation-Sec-8B.
I appreciate that. This model was created by researchers at Foundation AI, which is part of Cisco Systems, alongside researchers from Yale University.
A pretty heavy-hitting team.
Definitely. And today, we are going to explore exactly why general AIs fail so spectacularly at cybersecurity. We'll look at the grueling lengths these researchers went to in order to build a true cyber brain.
We'll also break down the mechanics of how this relatively small model manages to go toe-to-toe with absolute AI giants in these rigorous benchmark tests.
Right, and ultimately what all of this means for the future of keeping your digital life secure. Okay, let's unpack this, because my first thought when reading the source material was, why are we reinventing the wheel here?
Right, it seems counterintuitive at first.
Yeah, we have massive frontier models already out there that can, write code, compose symphonies, they pass the bar exam.
They do basically everything.
Exactly. So if you are a security defender, why can't you just hand a manual to one of these incredibly smart general models and say, hey, help me secure my network?
It seems like the obvious solution.
Yeah.
But it hits a hard wall when you look at how commercial large language models, LLMs, are actually constructed.
Okay, what's the wall?
The biggest structural issue is the safety guardrails.
But wait, aren't there workarounds for that? I mean, people jailbreak commercial AI all the time with, clever prompts. Couldn't a defender just use a prompt trick to get the commercial AI to look at the malware?
I mean, they could try. But think about it from a professional standpoint. A security operations center needs reliable automated infrastructure.
Right, not a hacky workaround.
Exactly. They don't have time for a constant cat-and-mouse game trying to trick a chatbot's content filter into just doing its job. The commercial providers intentionally build these restrictive guardrails deep into their models.
To stop everyday people from making malware, I assume.
Yes, to prevent the general public from generating malware or, learning how to exploit systems. But consider the daily reality of a defensive cybersecurity practitioner. They literally must analyze malicious code.
That is their whole job.
Right. They have to deconstruct how a specific exploit behaves to neutralize it. So when they feed an actual virus signature into a highly censored model, the AI often just shuts down the conversation entirely.
I see. So it's one thing to stop, a teenager from asking how to hack a Wi-Fi password. It's a whole different ballgame when that same filter stops a professional from stopping a massive data breach.
Precisely. And beyond the guardrails, general models suffer from hallucinations.
Oh, yeah, making things up.
Yeah, we know they confidently invent facts when they don't know the answer. And if you're writing a sci-fi story, a hallucination is, a fun burst of creativity.
But in cybersecurity?
In cybersecurity, it is fatal. If a defender asks an AI to trace a highly specific phishing campaign, and the AI confidently hallucinates a fake IP address or a non-existent vulnerability, it sends the defender down a disastrous, incredibly time-consuming rabbit hole.
Which they just don't have time for during a breach. And the source material highlights that cybersecurity isn't just one monolithic thing either.
No, not at all.
It's a remarkably broad, heterogeneous field. You've got phishing detection, complex cryptographic analysis, hardware vulnerabilities.
Network traffic analysis, all of it.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the field of digital defense is currently dominated by heavily fragmented, task-specific tools.
Like having a different tool for every little thing.
Yeah, you have one dashboard for scanning code, a completely separate tool for tracking threat intelligence, and yet another for monitoring network traffic.
Sounds exhausting.
It is. Without a centralized foundation model, an AI that fundamentally understands the underlying logic of cyber defense across all those domains, defenders are left juggling disjointed tools.
While the attackers are basically using highly integrated, customized AI to find the cracks.
Exactly.
Which perfectly sets up why the Cisco and Yale researchers needed to build this new model from the ground up. But they immediately ran into a massive data problem, didn't they?
Oh, a huge one.
The researchers point out that there is a severe lack of clean, publicly available cybersecurity data sets. They couldn't just, go buy a hard drive full of perfect cyber knowledge.
No, they had to forage for it across the entire internet. The pipeline they constructed is staggering. They essentially had to teach an AI a highly technical, very niche language that's buried under mountains of everyday internet chatter.
And they built a 3-stage pipeline to do it. Stage 1 was a wide net scraper.
Basically vacuuming up everything.
Right. They deployed crawlers across the web, prioritizing depth and breadth, and they gathered an absolute ocean of text. 4 TB or terabytes of raw web data.
Which is hard to even conceptualize.
Yeah, just for context for you listening, a single terabyte can hold roughly 85 million pages of Word documents. They grabbed 4 times that.
But, and this is the kicker, raw web data is incredibly noisy. It's full of formatting junk, irrelevant advertisements, broken HTML tags.
Just endless internet arguments on forums.
Endless. So they had to move to a highly parallelized second stage, which was processing, filtering, cleaning, and classifying that massive data dump.
And then the 3rd stage was training preparation. That's where they deduplicated the data, replaced personally identifiable information to ensure privacy, and finally tokenized it.
Right, getting it ready for the AI to actually consume.
And let's pause here because the numbers at the end of this pipeline are what completely stopped me in my tracks.
They're pretty shocking.
They started with 4 terabytes. After running it through this entire pipeline, they ended up with just under 25 gigabytes of clean text. That translates to about 5 billion tokens.
And just to clarify for everyone, when we say tokens in AI development, think of them as the basic building blocks of language that the AI actually reads. A token might be a single word, a syllable, or a chunk of code.
So 5 billion tokens sounds huge. But weight dropping from 4 terabytes down to 25 gigabytes means they threw away more than 99% of the original data.
Almost all of it, yeah.
I'm stuck on something here. I always thought the golden rule of artificial intelligence was that, more data is always better. Why on earth would you spend all that computing power scraping 4 terabytes only to throw almost all of it in the trash?
It's a great question. In the early days of building general AI, volume was absolutely the primary focus. You just vacuumed up the whole internet and figured, hey, the AI will sort it out.
Right. Let the model figure out the patterns.
But in domain-specific training, data quality and data density matter infinitely more than raw volume. Think of it as signal versus noise.
Okay, signal versus noise.
If you're trying to find a needle in a haystack, making the haystack bigger doesn't help you find the needle. If you train a model on 1 million pages of irrelevant forum posts, it doesn't learn how to defend a server. You want pure, concentrated, high-density knowledge.
But getting to that pure signal was a massive headache for these researchers. They initially tried to filter the data using a keyword matching system, right?
Yeah, armed with about 800 common cybersecurity terms.
Which sounds logical on the surface.
It does, but in practice, it fails completely.
Let me guess why. I imagine an 800-word keyword filter is going to grab an unbelievable amount of garbage. Like, if a movie review for a techno-thriller mentions the word firewall or virus, that filter accidentally pulls the movie review in, right?
Precisely. It generated way too many false positives. Just because a news article mentions a hacker doesn't mean it contains high-quality, actionable threat intelligence.
Makes sense.
So they completely abandoned the simple keyword approach. Instead, they took the time to train a custom transformer-based classifier.
A whole separate AI just to sort the data.
Exactly. They used a frontier AI model to carefully label 26,000 distinct documents as either relevant or irrelevant, creating a perfectly balanced training set for their new classifier to learn from.
And the source notes that when they deployed this custom classifier, it scored a 0.924 F1 rating. Now, for anyone who isn't living inside data science spreadsheets every day, how does an F1 score actually work mechanically?
So an F1 score is a metric that balances two critical things: precision and recall.
Okay.
Precision asks, of all the documents you grabbed, how many were actually cybersecurity related? Recall asks, of all the cybersecurity documents out there in the pile, how many did you manage to actually find?
Ah, I
If you
see.
just grab everything, your recall is perfect, but your precision is terrible because you grabbed junk. If you only grab one perfect document, your precision is flawless, but your recall is a disaster.
You missed everything else.
Exactly. So a 0.924 F1 score is a phenomenal balance. It means the classifier was aggressively pulling in the right documents while successfully ignoring those movie reviews.
That makes perfect sense. But here is the most crucial detail of their entire data diet, and I think it really highlights the core problem with using standard tools for this specific field.
Yeah, this is fascinating.
When they were running this data through the pipeline, they deliberately chose not to use standard data quality filters, like the widely used FineWeb fast text English filter.
Right.
And my initial thought was, well, if you want high-quality English documents, shouldn't you use the industry standard English filter?
You would naturally think so. But here's the trick. High-quality cybersecurity documents often look like complete gibberish to a standard AI filter.
Gibberish how?
Cybersecurity data is packed with code snippets, memory addresses, terminal commands, and just bizarre alphanumeric abbreviations. The researchers highlighted two specific examples that perfectly illustrate how standard filters essentially destroy cybersecurity data.
Oh, right. The first one was a vulnerability advisory for a MediaWiki bug, CVE 2016-6335.
Yes, this is a highly critical, legitimate document explaining a software vulnerability. But when a standard English filter looks at the text, it doesn't see flowing paragraphs of prose.
It sees code.
It sees jagged system paths, software version numbers, and fragmented sentences. So the filter's algorithm calculates that this falls below the acceptable threshold for proper English.
And it throws it out.
It literally throws the document in the trash.
And the second example was even more striking, I think. It was a page from the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And for those listening who might not be familiar, ATRE, ATT&CK is essentially the global encyclopedia of how hackers operate.
Right, it catalogs every known tactic and technique.
And this specific page in their dataset was explaining exactly how adversaries gather credentials from Linux systems. It contained raw bash commands, specifically a command starting with grep-e, followed by a complex regular expression and file paths like procmaps.
And regular expressions regex are those intense search commands that look like a cat just walked across the keyboard.
Exactly. It's just a string of brackets, slashes, and asterisks. It's unreadable unless you know it.
Right. To a standard data filter, a string of regex code looks like corrupted data or a random typo, so the filter deletes it. But to a cybersecurity professional and to a model trying to learn how to be a cybersecurity AI, that specific regex command is an absolute goldmine.
Because it shows exactly what the hacker is doing.
It is the exact blueprint of how the attack works.
So by building their own custom filters and explicitly avoiding the standard English ones, they managed to save these gold mines from being permanently deleted.
Yes.
And that is how they successfully boiled 4 terabytes of raw noise down to 25 gigabytes of absolute pure cyber knowledge.
And that intense, very meticulous focus on data density and quality is exactly what allowed them to achieve the staggering results we see in the next phase of their research, which is the benchmark testing.
Right. So they have this perfectly distilled 25 gigabyte brain. But in AI, just having the right data doesn't guarantee the model actually understands how to use it.
No, you have to test it.
They had to put it to the test. So they took their resulting model, Foundation-Sec-8B, and evaluated it against major models across distinct security benchmarks.
We should context at the size here. The 8B stands for 8 billion parameters.
Which sounds like a lot.
It sounds massive, right? But parameters are essentially the AI's artificial synapses, the internal connections that determine how it processes information. In the world of modern LLMs, 8 billion parameters is actually relatively small.
Like lightweight enough to run locally.
Exactly. It's designed to be highly efficient, something a security team could potentially run on their own secure hardware without needing a massive multi-million-dollar server farm in the cloud.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. To use an analogy, let's compare these models to professionals in a high-stakes environment. It's like pitting a world champion Jeopardy contestant, which would be a massive 70 billion parameter general model against a highly seasoned neurosurgeon.
Which is our 8 billion parameter model.
Right. The Jeopardy champion has a much bigger database of general trivia. They know 18th century poetry, they know quantum physics. But in this scenario, we are stepping into an operating room.
That is a fantastic way to frame it, because they tested these models on incredibly difficult domain-specific exams like Cybermetric, SecBench, and most importantly, CDI Bench.
Let's dive deep into CTI Bench because this benchmark focuses entirely on practical cyber threat intelligence tasks. It features a multiple choice section, but the real test is something called root cause mapping, or RCM.
Yeah, RCM is the gauntlet.
Let's pause and actually explain what that means mechanically. Root cause mapping isn't just matching definitions in a dictionary, is it?
Not at all. Root cause mapping is highly analytical. You give the AI a bug report or a vulnerability description, which is known as a CVE, and you ask it to identify the fundamental underlying architectural weakness, the CWE, that caused it.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. For example, if the bug report says a system crashed when someone inputted a really long password, the AI has to understand the mechanics of memory allocation well enough to map that back to a buffer overflow weakness.
Ah, so it's diagnosing the disease from the symptoms.
Exactly. It requires a deep, almost intuitive understanding of how software fails at a structural level.
Which is where we get a true David versus Goliath moment. On the CTI Bench multiple choice section, Foundation-Sec-8B trails the massive GPT-4 mini model by a microscopic 0.8 points.
It is virtually a tie.
But on the root cause mapping task, the 8 billion parameter model actually beats the heavyweight GPT-4 mini by 6.1 points. It outsmarted the giant in the operating room.
And when you compare Foundation-Sec-8B to its own base model, the original Llama 3.18B that had not received this specialized training diet, it saw a massive 14.29% improvement on root cause mapping.
Wow, it proves the neurosurgeon analogy perfectly. The general AI might know more facts overall, but only the model with the hyper-specialized, grueling coaching through that 25 gigabyte dataset has the training required to actually map the root cause of a complex failure.
Definitely. And we also have to give immense credit to the researchers for ensuring this was a completely fair fight. Evaluating different types of AI models is a really delicate mechanical process.
Oh.
Well, if you prompt them incorrectly, they look foolish even if they actually know the answer.
Right, the source material mentions they use 5-shot prompting for base models and 0-shot prompting for instruct models. Can we break down how that works?
Certainly. Base models are fundamentally just designed to autocomplete text. They aren't naturally built to answer questions like a chatbot does. So the researchers used 5-shot prompting.
Shot just meaning example, right?
Yes. They gave the base model 5 complete examples of a question and a correct answer before asking the real test question. It's like giving a student a formatting rubric before an essay so they understand the pattern of what is expected.
But for the instruct models, the ones already tuned to act like helpful chatbots, they use 0-shot prompting.
Right. They just ask the question directly without any prior examples. Because feeding a chatbot rigid examples can actually confuse its built-in formatting logic. They were incredibly meticulous about extracting the answers fairly based on how the models were structurally designed to communicate.
But there is always a fear when you train an AI so intensely on one specific, narrow topic. In the industry, they call it catastrophic forgetting, right?
Yes, it's a huge issue in AI development.
It's the idea that by constantly adjusting the AI's internal weights and parameters to learn cybersecurity, it overwrites its basic knowledge. Like studying so hard for a medical exam that you forget how to tie your shoes. Did Foundation-Sec-8B lose its general intelligence?
So to test that, they ran it through MMLU, which stands for Measuring Massive Multitask Language Understanding. It is a massive benchmark covering STEM, humanities, social sciences, a true test of general knowledge.
And how did it do?
The original base model scored a 0.617. After being transformed into this hyper-focused cyber expert, it scored a 0.593.
So it did drop, but only by a fraction.
A drop of just over 2%. It proved that the model retained its underlying logical and general reasoning capabilities while gaining a massive, outsized expertise in security.
It didn't become dumb at everyday tasks just because it learned how to reverse engineer malware.
Exactly.
Okay, so we know it passes the sterile benchmark tests in the lab, but what does it actually do in the real world? So what does this all mean for you, the listener? If you aren't a cybersecurity analyst sitting in a dark, windowless room staring at cascading green code, why should you care about Foundation-Sec-8B?
What's fascinating here is that the invisible infrastructure of your daily life depends entirely on the people sitting in those dark rooms.
The people keeping the lights on.
Yes, every application on your smartphone, every online bank transaction you authorize, every piece of sensitive medical data stored by your healthcare provider. It relies on a workforce of security engineers who are, quite frankly, drowning.
They are exhausted by a never-ending flood of automated alerts.
And this specialized AI acts as a desperately needed force multiplier for them. The source material outlines some very specific, tangible use cases where this model is already being piloted to relieve that pressure.
The first one is SOC acceleration. SOC stands for Security Operations Center. Imagine being an analyst in that room.
It's incredibly stressful.
You receive a constant, chaotic stream of security alerts from firewalls, antivirus software, and network monitors all day long. Foundation-Sec is being used to automatically ingest those multi-source alerts, synthesize the data, and physically group it into a clear, chronological, human-readable timeline.
Which is huge. It does the exhausting grunt work of cross-referencing logs so the human analyst can step in and make the critical high-level decisions.
It drastically reduces the time it takes to triage an alert, which means if someone is trying to steal your data, the threat gets neutralized exponentially faster.
Exactly. The second major area of application is proactive threat defense. Instead of just reacting to alarms, defenders want to actively study how the attackers operate. They read massive unstructured threat intelligence reports.
And the model helps with that.
Yes, the model is being deployed to mechanically extract TTPS, tactics, techniques, and procedures from these reports.
And the researchers note that when they fine-tuned Foundation-Sec for extracting specific techniques from the MITRE or ATT&CK framework, it outperformed a non-security-tuned model by over 10%.
It just fundamentally understands the language of a cyber attack better.
It can even take that data and automatically draft penetration test reports, clearly outlining where a network's vulnerabilities are and detailing the exact steps needed to patch them.
And finally, there is engineering enablement. This is about shifting security to the very beginning of the process.
Before things are even built.
Exactly. Before a new piece of software or a server update is even deployed, platform teams need to ensure it meets strict security standards. Foundation-Sec can read complex infrastructure configuration files and logically validate them against best practices before they go live.
It acts as an automated compliance checker.
It is essentially an incredibly smart, tireless assistant reviewing the architectural blueprints before the building is even built.
By automating the triage of alerts, the extraction of threat intel, and the validation of policies, this specialized AI frees human defenders up to do what humans actually do best.
Which is think creatively.
Right. Think creatively, anticipate new strategies, and catch the truly dangerous, novel, zero-day threats that no machine has ever seen before.
It changes the dynamic of the industry entirely. Right. We went from a landscape where the attackers had a massive asymmetric advantage, utilizing powerful, customized models without any safety guardrails, to a landscape where defenders now have access to open weights, highly specialized tools that can run efficiently and securely on their side of the firewall.
It really is a paradigm shift. So let's briefly recap the journey we just took through this source material. We started by identifying the glaring gap in AI security, how general models, hindered by strict safety guardrails and a dangerous tendency to hallucinate fake data, simply aren't cut out for the rigorous demands of defensive cyber work.
We explored the grueling, really microscopic process of building a true cyber brain.
Boiling 4 terabytes of chaotic internet noise down to a highly concentrated 25 gigabytes of pure cyber knowledge.
And we broke down how they had to rely on custom-trained classifiers because standard English data filters would look at vital command line code and just throw it away as poor English.
Which ultimately produced a lightweight 8 billion parameter open source model that could step into the ring and actually beat giant frontier models on complex analytical tasks like root cause mapping, all without catastrophically forgetting its general knowledge.
It's an incredible feat. Now, this tool is actively being deployed to accelerate security operation centers and proactively defend the networks that hold our lives together. It is finally leveling the playing field for the defenders.
It is a tremendous technical achievement by the teams at Foundation AI and Yale.
Absolutely.
Oh.
We want to thank you, the listener, for joining us on this deep dive today. Taking the time to understand these complex technological shifts is how you stay well informed on the invisible digital battles that are constantly being fought to keep your data safe.
But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. We have talked today about how bad actors train their own unconstrained models, and how defenders now have open weights tools like Foundation-Sec-8B to fight back.
Right.
It raises a fascinating and somewhat daunting question. Are we rapidly approaching a horizon where cybersecurity is no longer a battle of human hackers typing away against human defenders, but entirely an invisible millisecond by millisecond war of AI versus AI, autonomously hacking, adapting, and patching our digital world while we sleep? An invisible war happening at light speed right under our noses. It's a wild thought. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.